The Making of Ships on an Ocean, Part 1, Voice Notes. Here's the first one from September 28th, all the way back in 2017. I'm just messing around with a basic chord progression and some melody fragments and a slow groove. Here's something that loosely resembles something that would later become the verse and melody.
All that you ever know and all that you do, I thought we were happy now, I thought we were cool.
There's no date on this one, but at some point I had the idea for a Hey Jude kind of sing-along section. I couldn't have imagined years later how epic this part would have turned out in the final version. Welcome to the Making of Ships on an Ocean, Part 2, Guitars. A major part of the concept behind Ships on an Ocean is a drastic change in dynamic between the verse and the chorus. Some of our favorite 90s songs like Creep, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Sweater Song, and Today are all examples of songs that do this kind of thing, and they served as references for us.
Drain You probably has the record for most guitar overdubs on Nevermind. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guitars, 2 tracks of the Mesa Boogie, 2 tracks of the Fender Bassman, and 1 track that we called the Super Grunge, which was a pedal into the Bassman.
To get variations in the guitar sounds, I used this little device here that lets you use different speaker and microphone combinations with your favorite amps. Then I got all my favorite guitars together, all my favorite amps together, and here's what it sounds like. And now with all the guitar parts together, the chorus really explodes. I'll stay up and lose myself late into the night. Welcome to the Making of Ships on an Ocean, Part 3, Drums. Like a lot of our demos, the drums on Ships on an Ocean were fleshed out using our favorite drum software, Excellent Addictive Drums. I spent years tweaking drum sounds, but it seemed like no matter what I tried, I either got a great verse or an awesome chorus sound, just not both. We thought all of our MIDI drum issues would be solved if we spent a day in the studio with Zach playing the drums. So we hit up one of our favorite studios in Toronto, Pine Ship Sound, where we recorded our last album, Live Again. Here's how they sounded. But the choruses still felt too aggressive, especially the splashy hi-hat full of mid-frequencies, which took up too much room in the mix. After a lot of mixing, listening, and experimentation, I came to realize that the song is really made up of 2 different drum sounds, a verse sound and a chorus sound, and approaching it like 2 different songs smashed into one could be actually a cool concept. So we tried recording the drums again, this time with thinner hi-hats for a softer sound. We hit up another great Toronto studio called All Day Coconut. And now, the chorus. I love the sound of the new hi-hats in the choruses and the chilled out sound of the verses, but the choruses lack the smack of the first recording. So I sampled the sound of the Pine Ship Sound chorus snare and layered it on top of the All Day Coconut snare, creating a best of both worlds scenario. Even though figuring this out got pretty frustrating along the way, I learned a lot about producing drums. The Making of Ships on an Ocean, Part 4, Tape Effect. This is a recording machine that I learned on as a kid. It was my dad's, but I think he only used it twice. It felt like recording on a Game Boy screen, but when you were done, you could burn your own CDs. Very cool. I dropped a lot of demo CDs in my teenage years. The analog version that came a decade before it was a Tascam Portastudio. It was the first machine to put a 4-bill multi-track recording into the hands of everyday musicians. The machine used cassette tapes to record onto, which gave the audio a uniquely crappy sound to most professional standards. I really wanted to give my softer synthesizers a nervous and weird energy, both feelings that mirror the emotion of the song. So I bought a Tascam Portastudio 414 and ran all my synths through it. Here's what it sounds like. I had so much fun messing around with this that I tried running other sounds through it, like this crazy smashing piano part in the break leading up to the guitar solo. There are lots of software alternatives to the Portastudio out there that I also love using, but tweaking the knobs on the real thing felt like a totally different experience that led to some creative accidents and that reminded me of making music on my first recording machine as a teenager. The Making of Ships on an Ocean, Part 5, Lyrics. Writing Better Lyrics by Pat Patson is my favorite book on songwriting. I discovered it a couple years back by chance and it totally blew my mind. I didn't know anyone had written such a clear and concrete method on the craft of songwriting. I love this part he calls the Sister Mary Elizabeth rule of songwriting, show before you tell. It's a cute kid's anecdote reminding us of the potent emotional effect of showing or describing a scene before telling the listener about it. Showing the imagery and putting the listener into space was a major goal in the writing of Ships on an Ocean. In the first verse, for example, it's describing the light bulb and its effect and letting that seep in before telling everyone that our relationship is over. Another awesome lesson from Pat Patson is on avoiding cliché. He stresses the importance of describing an emotion in new and unique ways. His example is the Cole Porter standard, "You'd be so nice to come home to," where Porter basically says "I love you" by saying "You'd be so nice to come home to, you'd be so nice by the fire."
Nice by the fire.
In a similar way on Ships on an Ocean, I tried to convey feeling let down and helpless as an expensive bottle of beer suddenly tasting cheap throughout the duration of a drawn-out breakup.
This bottle of import tastes domestic tonight.
I recently listened to Ben Gibbard on the Broken Record podcast, where he describes his lyrical approach in a way that really resonated with me. Check this out.
I think by the time I was writing stuff for Transatlanticism, I started to really lean into this idea of I want people to hear the song one time and be able to see it.
Yeah.
To see something.
Yeah.
Rather than like I was listening to like R.E.M's Reckoning not that long ago, which is a record I've been listening to for 35 years or whatever, and I still don't know what the fuck he's talking about in a lot of the songs, right? You know, the idea would be you listen to it once, you understand what the song's about, but there are turns of phrase that you go like, whoa, what did you just say? That was fucking cool. I like that. But I think on some of the earlier records, there are so many kind of obscure turns of phrases that in the less effective moments, it's kind of a word salad. The hope is not to tip too far into bland writing, you know, where you're just kind of writing, I'm happy, I'm sad, this thing happened.
I think what he's describing here is main reason why his lyrical writing has been such an inspiration to me. There's definitely elements of that have seeped into the writing of Ships on an Ocean.